Today's video is brought to you by SWAT Magazine, Survival Weapons and Tactics. Subscribe now at the link below or call 1-800-673-4595. SWAT is available in print and digital editions. That's SWATmag.com. I broke a breaking piece yesterday, which we did a lot of research, looked very deeply into the tragic death of 36-year-old elite hacker Barnaby Jack. And the question that we ask, which is a question that has to be posed by the American public and anybody that gives a shit about liberty and truth media here in the United States and abroad. For those of you that don't know Jack, Barnaby Jack was an elite hacker in his field, and he was found dead in his apartment in San Francisco. And this is just a long laundry list of conspiracy deaths, whether or not it was breaking investigative journalist Michael Hastings, who died in a fiery car crash just a few weeks ago, driving his Mercedes. Was driving over 100 miles per hour in Los Angeles. His engine flies out of his car. There's a massive explosion. He's engulfed in flames. People that are car experts in the industry says that kind of thing does not happen. He was, of course, on his way and just about to break a major story connected to the Edward Snowden link regarding the NSA and the continuation of the Bush-era policies through the Obama administration of wiretapping, listening to all of our conversations with our wife, with our husband, with our family and friends. You, of course, are being data mined into multi-billion-dollar facilities all over the world, some of which are located and being updated and built right now in Utah. These places are up to 5 times bigger than the Pentagon. And this is a direct threat to our civil liberties. This is a direct threat to the illusion of the constitutional republic. Again, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is an illusion to you and the American populace and to people of the world. We like to think that we're so great here in America, that we actually have a First Amendment, that we have the freedom of speech, that we have the right to bear arms, which, by the way, the Second Amendment protects our right to free speech. But they provide it in an illusory format. You see, you only have it here in the United States if you don't plan on using it. The minute you get on task, the minute you wake up from your Kool-Aid, bullshit drinking, mainstream media, Hollywood experience, you somehow end up dead, like Barnaby Jack, an elite hacker, 36 years old, about to demonstrate and break to the world this week in Las Vegas, Nevada, at the infamous Black Hat Security Conference, which is a mix of some of the most brilliant minds in the tech world. Of course, Barnaby Jack, many of you are familiar with, in 2010, exposed to the world a security breach in ATM machines, where he was able to hack using his computer from the comfort of his home, a coffee shop, or his hotel room into the ATM machines and make them spit out cash with a few lines of code. Make it rain cold, hard dollar signs, kind of like the Federal Reserve in this country that prints money out of thin air. Courtesy of Helicopter Ben, artificially suppressing interest rates at 0% into infinity post the 2008 apocalyptic stock market crash that eroded trillions of dollars in assets and stole directly out of the pockets of mainstream and the general public. The largest transfer of wealth in the world that everybody knew was coming suddenly was transferred into the same pockets of the 0.00001% that we bailed out and now live in an albatross of debt, with a skyrocketing national debt here in the good old USSA approaching $17 trillion and growing. But back to Barnaby Jack, for those of you that don't know Jack. Pun intended, for those of you that don't know Jack. He was just about to reveal to the world this week in Las Vegas, Nevada, at the Black Hat Security Conference and also DEF CON, which makes up, again, the most elite and brilliant minds in the tech and national security world. He was about to leak a massive security loophole in the millions of implanted pacemakers in Americans and people around the world, where just like he was able to hack in with a few lines of code into ATM machines a few years ago in 2010, which made national headlines, he was able to hack into pacemakers that are installed and sold by companies like Medtronic, a multi-billion-dollar company in the pharmaceutical industry. Its 2013 annual report, by the way, showcased and shows an $8.7 billion revenue stream. That's how much money is in this business. Kind of makes you think, did these companies and companies like Medtronic potentially have a motive in shutting somebody up like Barnaby Jack? But he was about to expose to the world how he could literally kill you via remote control, up to 300 feet away via Wi-Fi from the comfort of his hotel room or a Starbucks using his computer. This is what was once thought of as sci-fi BS. For some of you that watch Homeland, the show on HBO, I did not see the episode. They actually, this is fiction in the show, but it's actually true now in real life, as Barnaby Jack was about to show. In Homeland, they actually kill the vice president by manipulating, using an algorithm and a few lines of code, killing the vice president. And this is what Barnaby Jack was about to expose to the world, that literally a massive security breach in millions of these pacemakers. He was also about to show you and to show and disclose to the world. And again, the administration here in the United States and these companies do not like transparency in any way. I'm going to get to the Bradley Manning story here in a minute, later in today's broadcast, and I have a breaking video on that coming up we're about to shoot and move into post-production. But he was also going to show you, in addition to taking control of your implanted pacemaker, he was also going to show you how he could deliver a lethal dose of insulin from an insulin pump. So basically, by using the security breach and figuring out this loophole, he could literally make your heart explode or deliver a massive insulin injection into your pancreas that would literally overload your system and kill you. Now, I want you to think about this for a minute, because we live in a post-9/11 world. We live in a homeland security, whatever you say is data mined into a national database now. People like President Barack Obama having said in 2007, before he was elected, that he would not, let me repeat, he would not continue the Bush-era policies of wiretapping and surveillance. Now we know he's done that he's an absolute liar, and he's a psychopath like most politicians in Washington today. I mean, hey, take a look at people like Anthony Weiner, too busy sexting bimbos over the internet to really be concerned with transparency or actually doing what's right for the country. But this opens a very big can of worms, and what I find very telling, and I encourage you to watch the video we posted yesterday without me having to rehash every single detail of the investigation. Watch it. The title, Investigated Elite Hacker Barnaby Jack Murdered by the NSA. This has been spit all over the blogosphere and the internet. Places like Huffington Post are running stories on it, InfoWars, Alex Jones, our friends over in Austin, Texas. Those are not afraid to get the truth out to the American public. So I really appreciate you retweeting it, favoriting it, Facebooking it. But we had an update today to add more suspicion and more proof to the pudding. If you haven't checked it out, please check it out on our Facebook page at Greenwave TV. That's Greenwave TV on Facebook. But to add more proof to the pudding, to add a little bit more causation, at least at the very least, people are starting to ask questions here after the hosts of deaths, whether or not it's been Andrew Breitbart, media mogul who was about to reveal to the American public information that he said was damning, that would ruin the career and the political career of President Barack Obama. He ends up dead at a very young age. We, of course, had Michael Hastings. I just mentioned him, a journalist directly connected who had reached out to the WikiLeaks attorney literally a day before he died, had sent a dire warning email out to friends and family, said he was on to a massive story that he was about to break. Again, you know, this is all connected. But to add more proof to the pudding, I'm going to actually read this to you, and you can see this on our Facebook page itself. It's been shared over 51 times here since we posted it already. We've got a host of comments. I write, so let me get this straight. Barnaby Jack dies suddenly days before he is about to present an extremely controversial vulnerability in pacemakers and defibrillators implanted in millions of people worldwide with billions of dollars with a B at stake. The police say they don't expect foul play in the case, even though basic detective work would reveal several parties obviously had an interest in killing him. Suspects include the multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical industry, companies like Medtronic that again reported $8.7 billion in revenue last year, according to their 2013 annual report, that have already implanted millions of these devices worldwide. You could see why they would not want this security breach to be made public to the world. How many billions of dollars would be lost if Barnaby Jack was actually able to speak this week at the Black Hat Conference. And so there was obviously numerous parties that had an interest in killing him. Suspects include the pharmaceutical industry, also the NSA and other government intelligence agencies that, by the way, have blacklisted and blackballed people like Edward Snowden for simply telling the truth, for simply being concerned that the First Amendment in this country is being jeopardized, that the U.S. Constitution is being shredded and flushed down the toilet, literally gasoline poured all over it, and they're lighting the match. You know, the people that actually care, that are using fourth grade common sense intelligence to blow the whistle, tweet, to blow the whistle on the crimes and the war crimes that are occurring not just here in the United States of America, but overseas, are being blackballed, are being sent through military tribunals, like Bradley Manning, who simply just told the truth. Simply leaked to WikiLeaks these gross crimes. You remember the images in Iraq of the helicopter pilots literally killing and murdering in broad daylight innocent civilians and laughing while they were doing this. I mean, there's been so many stories on this, whether or not it is the gross living conditions at Guantanamo Bay, another place Obama said he was going to close, but he never did. Again, he's a lying psychopath, just like most of these politicians are. Or it was Abu Ghraib with the torture chambers there and the picture with dead bodies. Or it's been the American soldiers pissing on dead Iraqi soldiers. You remember that story broke a few months ago. I reported on that. These people using low-level intelligence, fourth grade common sense, being blacklisted and then sent into solitary confinement overseas and made out to be terrorists, treated like Osama bin Laden or Al-Qaeda. Point 3 I made on Facebook was anyone with half a brain knows that an autopsy at most would take only a couple of days to complete. And this was the story that broke on Huffington Post. And again, I believe it broke on Huffington Post. There was a few sources of this story earlier this morning when I woke up, titled Hacker Barnaby Jack's Cause of Death could remain unknown for months. So we're not going to get an autopsy report for months. Anybody that has half a brain knows it takes about 24 to 48 hours to get a legitimate autopsy report. Now remember, in the Andrew Breitbart case, the individual doing his autopsy actually died. He actually passed away before he could get that factual information out to the public. Everybody that, again, is connected to this one way or another just ends up dead. Aaron Swartz, the co-owner, co-founder of Reddit, supposedly committed suicide. Former Navy SEALs like Chris Kyle, a lot of people believed him to be an American hero. He's one of the deadliest snipers in American history. Some of you don't necessarily agree with that or agree with those types of tactics. He's famous for a book that he had written. Ended up dead. This was connected to the Boston bombing. A lot of people believe that was a cover-up in order to institute martial law in one of America's largest cities, in Boston, again, where they opened fire on an unarmed individual in the name of Joe Carr. Wasn't armed. Remember how we made a big deal about this a few weeks ago about Trayvon Martin being unarmed? Well, Joe Carr was unarmed as well, as they opened fire in an American street in an American suburb. Again, you don't hear about these stories. You don't hear this in the mainstream media. You don't hear the stories about the drone strikes of U.S. citizens like Anwar Awlaki and the murder of his 16-year-old son a few days later by the Obama administration, who was also unarmed, a 16-year-old kid. unarmed and killed. You see, you don't get a trial anymore in America. You're very much Christopher Dornered. That's the program here in the USSA. They light a match. If you're an alleged or you're accused of a crime, they don't take you to court. There's no trial. There's no jury. You don't get, placed in front of your peers to determine whether or not you're guilty or not. You're just killed if you're connected to too much truth. I did dig this up. According to the University of Florida's UF Path Labs website, quote, autopsies are performed within 24 hours of death and are scheduled as soon as completed autopsy permission and request forms, in addition to patients' clinical records, are available and reviewed in the Department of Pathology. So again, that's just a fact. Takes about 24 to 48 hours to get an autopsy report. We're being sold a lie by the mainstream media and the local police out in San Francisco that there is no foul play, there was no malintention here with the death of Barnaby Jack, even though there was clear and present motive with anybody that was, putting their detective cap on. We're not going to find any information on it for months. And if it's anything like the Andrew Breitbart autopsy, again, the person that was doing the autopsy on Breitbart died before he could get the information out to the public. Just another part of the conspiracy and cover-up. We'll never actually get an autopsy report in the case here of Barnaby Jack. So I smell bullshit. I don't know about you guys, but I smell a big pile, stinking, big a pile of shit here, and I think it's pretty obvious. Everybody connected to the Liberty Movement, it seems, one way or another, martyrs like Adam Kokesh, and I think he made a grave mistake in the way that he was protesting what's happening here in the United States, things that I openly did not agree with. I think he was very much testing the establishment in a way that was negative, that really didn't do a whole lot, in my opinion, for the Liberty Movement. I was very public about this months before he had planned his armed march in Washington, D.C. I thought it was a very stupid idea. There are much better ways, in my opinion, to show civil disobedience and execute our constitutional rights here in the United States. He himself was denied bond by a judge, and of course, many of you are very familiar with this story where he had armed a shotgun in Freedom Plaza in public demonstration as a political demonstration as an activist, which I believe Adam Kokesh to be, has basically been confiscated by the state as well. And what's amazing about this is, just like Edward Snowden said originally when he broke this story to Glenn Greenwald, who I view as an exceptional journalist, he says, don't make the story about me. Don't focus on me, Edward Snowden. I don't care about me. What I want America and the people of the world to focus on is what is actually taking place here in the United States, exposing this mass surveillance state. Many of you have seen the mini-doc that is actually a finalist in the Paul Revere InfoWars contest that we had submitted months ago on the surveillance state, which was amazing at the time. We released that information to the public before the NSA scandal had even broken. So please get this story out. Please get the story out on elite hacker Barnaby Jack. Major headlines, of course, all over the news. The Drudge Report, which really has become the mainstream media, along with organizations like ours, Alternative Media Television, AMTV at amtvmedia.com, and greenwave.com. Please continue to support us. If you can, donate $5 or more a month to what we do. It's how we keep the lights on. It's how we're able to continue our live broadcasts and to touch the stories and investigate the stories no one else has the balls to investigate. I mean, let's face facts. If the mainstream media was to investigate the story of Barnaby Jack, they'd be fired on the spot. Well, this is not the case in the alternative media. We actually are interested in the truth, and we are going to exercise our rights, our constitutional rights, as long as humanly possible before they start killing all of us. Which I don't know if they have a mass genocide planned for millions of Americans. That might very well be the case as more and more sheeple wake up to the truth. But we will continue to push the limits within reason, as it, again, is our constitutional right to do. It's the reason our founding fathers set up the constitutional republic. It is why they told us and instructed us to fear government power and government control at the upper echelons of Washington and Wall Street, because these people do not want the truth to get out. After all, the truth is embarrassing. Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State, and soon to be President hopeful in 2016, didn't really like it when her husband, which is just a fake relationship anyways, was exposed not only for perjuring himself in front of the American people, which is a felony and punishable not only by fines but imprisonment in federal pound-me-in-the-ass prison. Didn't like it when it got out that he had some sexual shenanigans going on with Monica Lewinsky, that he had laced Monica cigars. They don't want to get this information out because it's embarrassing. It shows the world and Americans what scumbags these people actually are. People like Anthony Weiner that are too busy sexting themselves to whatever bimbo they're playing with at the time, and Americans actually fall for this. Anthony Weiner actually receiving a lot of support from women in the age group between 15 and 30, according to a report I was reading yesterday. But the major story today revolves around Mr. Bradley Manning, Private Bradley Manning, not a traitor. Not a traitor is the major headline. Bradley Manning trial verdict, acquitted of aiding the enemy, convicted on lesser charges. Military judge Tuesday acquitted the private of aiding the enemy, the most serious charge the Army intelligence analyst faced for leaking hundreds of thousands of classified military reports and diplomatic cables. Manning was convicted on all but one of the lesser charges considered by the judge. In connection, of course, with the website WikiLeaks receipt of the largest breach of classified material in U.S. history. The suspect at Tuesday's 5-minute-long court-martial session was limited because Manning previously pled guilty to at least portions of 10 of the 22 counts he had faced. Also restraining the drama was the absence of a military jury, which the defendant waived. Lind made no comments and displayed no emotion as she read her verdicts. The judge, which followed almost 3 months of witnesses and evidence, which the judge heard as the sole fact finder in the case. After warning spectators in the packed courtroom to avoid any outbursts, Lind recited a list of the charges, adding her not guilty, or more often guilty, to each. She also accepted and described changes in some of the charges that the defense offered with Manning's guilty pleas. The aiding the enemy charge could have resulted in a sentence of up to life in prison or even to the death penalty, but the military did not seek capital punishment in Manning's case. Manning is faced a potential sentence of up to 136 years in prison on the charges he was found guilty of Tuesday. That's a lot of years. I don't think he's actually going to live to 136 years. Many Americans not living past their 70s because they're too coked out on McDonald's and Coca-Cola and whatever they're ingesting into their systems at any given point of time, kind of keeping you in the negative, drugged out, negative feedback loop, which is the agenda of the government itself. Now remember, Eric Holder, in regards to Edward Snowden, who is still in Russia at this point, kind of immobilized, not sure if he's going to be able to get out of Russia. He's seeking asylum in places of Latin America, etc. Don't know if he's going to end up in Russia for good. Came out about a week ago, I believe it was, and said that they would not seek capital punishment. You see how they already assume guilt here in America now? There is no trial. I want to reemphasize this. You don't get a trial. If they want to kill you, they kill you, and that's how America works. And the problem is they can't control the narrative anymore. CNN can't control the narrative. CNBC can't control the narrative. Bloomberg News can't control the narrative. Because you have thousands, if not 10,000s of websites now and alternative media outlets like the one that you're watching that people laughed at 3.5 years ago when I started, which has now exploded into tens of millions of views around the world, 100,000 plus daily subscribers and growing. They can't keep a cap on the truth anymore. They can't keep a cap on the narrative. We are exposing on a daily basis these gross crimes against humanity. Whether or not it's Abu Ghraib or it's what Bradley Manning leaked to the American public into WikiLeaks, these torture chambers overseas, the real reason behind these wars. And notice how the American people are taking their eye off the ball. Notice how they are not focused on what's happening in the Middle East right now, not focused on the clear and present war agenda in Syria, being sold to us as a humanitarian effort, but of course, this has all been a part of the program from the very beginning. The president trafficking guns, that's what Benghazi Gay was, which killed Christopher Stevens and 3 other Americans. Christopher Stevens, a CIA liaison. This has now been confirmed. People said it was conjecture before. We broke it to you in the early stages of the scandal. Very many scandals, too many to list here, that have occurred just in the past several months. Nobody's talking about the real stories or the real issues or what's really been the totalitarian agenda from the very beginning. War, destruction, debt, bailouts, and cover-ups that I believe in the recent cover-up of Barnaby Jack, which I think is just absolutely tragic and extremely sad. And anybody that actually digs into the story knows that something was wrong there, knows that something is wrong here. I mean, just take a look at the public's response, and the video is up to about 5,000 views, hasn't even been out for 24 hours yet. We've got 469 up rates to 4 down rates. People know it's bullshit. People know people are being killed now. Here's a comment for To Have Freedom Priceless, and the big question is, WTF, won't Barnaby Jack's cause of death be known for months? If a revolt against the tyrants destroying this world broke out tomorrow, I'd be up for the challenge. This kind of mysterious death BS among young and healthy whistleblowers is happening way too frequently now to be a coincidence. Again, all these people, they're not in their 50s, their 60s, their 70s. They don't have health problems. They're perfectly healthy individuals that suddenly wind up dead. And they're all connected, again, to this whistleblowing and these leaks that are rocking the boat of Washington and the mainstream media. I have several links up, and we're about to close the show up here in a few minutes, but I want to get these links out, several of which I encourage you to check out. We have a video on how Barnaby Jack, how he attacked ATMs in 2010, exposing that security breach. Again, he was about to expose a major loophole in pacemakers, in insulin injectors worldwide that could potentially kill millions of people. I mean, imagine if a terrorist or a foreign government, the government likes to sell us on, the threat of terrorism all the time. Imagine if we had another September 11th type event where a malicious person, government, or potential terrorist got a hold of the loophole, people that weren't good doers, like Barnaby Jack, what they could do to the American populace. You can look all this up for yourself at the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. You can learn more about what pacemakers are, how they work, how they're literally directly electrically connected to the heart. This is how Barnaby Jack was able to manipulate these devices. You can read about Medtronic, the company that had a multi-billion-dollar stake in the leak of this information right before Barnaby Jack's death. You can also look into and contact defcon.org. Again, Barnaby was very loved by his community, by the underground hacking community itself. There was a great article I read that's talking about as DEFCON asked feds to take time out. Black Hat welcomes NSA chief. Remember that last year during the last Black Hat conference, General of the NSA Keith Alexander spoke. Yeah, that's right. The General of the NSA spoke at Black Hat last year. Makes you wonder, was Barnaby playing ball, or did they perceive him as a threat to national security? I think the latter. So you can read about him. There was another great article from SC Magazine, Spies Recruiting Hackers, General Keith Alexander at DEFCON. You can Wikipedia him as well. I appreciate all of you bearing with me today with a few technical difficulties. I will get this re-uploaded and archived as soon as possible. Really appreciate the support. Thank you for donating. For those of you that are donating $5 or more a month to what we do, it allows us to put up more content, keep the lights on. It allows me to hire more people, great contributors like Topher Morrison, to continue to build out Truth Media and to continue to build out something that started literally from the underground, from my basement, which was laughed at 3.5 years ago, that is now reaching millions of people around the world. Just goes to show you what a little elbow grease and hard work, where it can get you. Something that a lot of America has forgotten about most of America now on handouts and Social Security, which is a Ponzi scheme that people my age will never get. Pretty much the entire system itself is a Ponzi scheme. Just take a look how it operates today. Welfare and all of these other programs. It's almost like America has forgotten what it's like to work at all. Forgotten what it's like and what actually began this great experiment, which has been America and has only lasted, by the way, a few hundred years and has already seemed to die. Pretty incredible. I, of course, am Christopher Green. You've been tuning in for the hour to Alternative Media Television. Hard-hitting and in your face. Please click the link below. Support our sponsors, and I will get this up as soon as possible. Thank you very much.